Mirror Lake was always quiet in the mornings. The water sat still like glass, reflecting the tall pine trees and the endless blue sky. Birds sang, leaves rustled. It was a perfect summer day. Max, just 10 years old, laughed as he ran ahead of his two friends. Behind him, Jake and Noah followed, tossing their backpacks onto the grass. 3 bikes lay on the edge of the forest trail, their tires still spinning. Not far behind, a little girl tried to keep up, her small feet kicking dust into the air. Her name was Lily. She was Max's younger sister, only 7 years old. "Wait for me," she called out, but the boys didn't stop. Max turned around, briefly, and smiled at her. "You're too slow, Lily. Stay by the trees, okay?" Lily nodded and sat down near the edge of the woods, her doll clutched tightly in her arms. From where she sat, she could see everything, the lake shining under the sun, the boys throwing stones into the water, the way Max waved just before they stepped onto the old dock. And then, everything changed. There was no scream, no splash, no cry for help. One moment, the boys were there. The next, they were gone. Lily stood up. "Max," she called, walking toward the dock. There were only ripples in the water. Their bikes still leaned against the trees. Their shoes were neatly placed on the edge of the grass, but the lake was silent. She looked around, and that's when she saw him. A tall man, standing between the trees. He didn't move. His face was hidden by shadow, but his head tilted slowly, watching her, watching the lake. She blinked, and he was gone. Panic set in. Lily ran back toward the trail, screaming for help. When the police arrived, they searched the lake. Divers found nothing. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no answers. The town mourned. News stations came and went, but after weeks of searching, the case was closed. An accident, they said. The boys must have drowned. No one listened to Lily. "I saw a man," she repeated to the officers, her mother, the priest. "He was watching." They smiled at her sadly. "It's the grief," they said. "She's just a child." Years passed. The lake became quiet again. The bikes were removed. The town moved on, but Lily never did. 7 years later, Lily sat alone in her apartment, the sound of rain tapping against the window. Now a 34-year-old journalist, she lived in the city, far from Mirror Lake, but the memories never left her. On her desk sat a small photo frame. Inside, an old picture of Max, Jake, and Noah, all grinning with their arms around each other. She stared at it every year on the same date, June 12th, the day they vanished. Lily pulled out her worn notebook and scribbled a few thoughts. She'd tried for years to write about what happened, but no one wanted to publish it. Too personal, too strange. The kettle whistled. She stood to make tea. That's when she heard the knock. 3 slow taps on the door. She paused. It was late. She wasn't expecting anyone. She looked through the peephole. No one. Her heart beat faster as she opened the door and looked down. An envelope lay on the floor. No stamp, no name. Just her address, handwritten in black ink. She picked it up slowly, her fingers shaking. Inside was a single piece of paper. It read, "You were right to be afraid of the water. Come alone." That night she couldn't sleep. Her mind raced. Who sent it? Was it a cruel prank? But something inside her stirred. A feeling she hadn't felt since childhood. A memory buried deep. The man in the trees. The ripples in the lake and Max's voice in her dream always saying the same thing. "I'm still here, Lily. Please find me." She stared out the window into the night, and she knew, after 27 years, it was time to go back to Mirror Lake. Lily sat on the train with the letter in her hand. She had read it over 100 times. You were right to be afraid of the water. Come alone. The train rocked gently as it moved through green fields and quiet towns. She was returning to the place she promised herself she would never go again. Mirror Lake. She had told no one. Not her editor, not her friends, not even her mother. This was her secret now. It had to be. Lily leaned back and closed her eyes. The sound of the train faded as her mind returned to that day 27 years ago, the boys running, the laughter. Then, silence, and that man in the trees. She opened her eyes again. No one believed her back then. They thought she imagined it. But what if she hadn't? What if Max hadn't drowned? What if someone took him and the others? And now, after all these years, someone knew. Someone was watching. When she finally arrived at the small town near the lake, everything looked older, but strangely the same. The bakery still stood at the corner. The church bell rang at noon, but the people, they looked at her with quiet eyes. Some recognized her. Some whispered, "That's her, the girl whose brother vanished." Lily ignored them and headed to the inn where she'd booked a room under a different name. She didn't want anyone to know she was back. Not yet. The old man at the counter handed her the key. "You here for a funeral?" he asked. Lily froze. "No, why?" He shrugged. "Strangers only come back for two things, burials or ghosts." That night, Lily sat at the small desk in her room and opened her old scrapbook. Clippings from newspapers, photos of the lake, a childhood drawing, her drawing of a man with no face standing by the trees. She opened the letter again. No signature, no details, just that one line. "You were right to be afraid of the water. Come alone." She looked out the window. The lake wasn't far. She could almost smell it from here, the damp, earthy air that surrounded it. Suddenly, a shadow moved across the street, a man in a brown coat. She jumped up and pressed her face to the glass. The man walked slowly under the streetlight, then paused. As if he knew she was watching, he turned. For a moment, their eyes met. Then he walked away into the trees. Her hands shook. She didn't know why, but she grabbed her coat and ran outside. She followed the path through the woods, heart pounding, every step taking her closer to the lake. The moon lit up the water like silver. She stopped. There, on the dock, was something new. A glass jar. Inside it, a rolled-up note. Lily picked it up and unrolled the paper with trembling fingers. It said, "There were never just three. You forgot the fourth." Her breath caught in her throat. The fourth? But there were only three boys. Max, Jake, and Noah. Who was the fourth? She read it again. Her mind raced. Was it someone who was with them before? Another boy? Or was the note speaking of something else entirely? She sat on the dock, staring into the water. The moon's reflection wobbled on the surface. She could almost see their faces in the waves. Then she heard a sound, a splash. She turned. Nothing, just the lake, quiet as ever, but deep in the water. A ripple moved outward, as if something had just gone under. Lily backed away slowly. She clutched the note in her hand and whispered, "What are you trying to tell me?" But the lake gave no answers, only silence, and the wind through the trees. Lily couldn't sleep that night. She sat on her bed holding the strange message in her hand. There were never just three. You forgot the fourth. The words repeated. In her head over and over, who was the fourth? She flipped through her old notebook again, pages filled with notes, sketches, and timelines from the day her brother disappeared. She had recorded everything, even as a child. Max, Jake, Noah. They were the only names mentioned in every report. But then her eyes stopped on something she had scribbled years ago, barely readable now. A short sentence. He said his cousin was coming too. Her heart skipped a beat, no name, just that one sentence. Could it be? Did one of the boys bring another child that day? Why hadn't anyone remembered this? The next morning, she walked to the town's public library. It was small, dusty, and almost empty. An old woman sat behind the front desk, looking up slowly, as Lily entered. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. "I'm looking for school records," Lily said. "From the year 1998. The woman stared at her for a moment. "Wait, you're Lily, aren't you? Max's sister?" Lily nodded, a bit uncomfortable. The woman said nothing more. She led Lily to a small room in the back, filled with old documents and paper files. Lily spent hours there, going through class lists and school photos. And then she found it, a photo of Max's class. She counted 24 children, but someone had circled one boy in red ink. A name was written below, Ethan Rowe. Lily had never heard that name before. She checked the attendance records. Ethan Rowe had joined the school just 2 weeks before the lake incident and disappeared. The same day as the others. But Ethan's name was never in the news, never listed as missing. No photo, no police report, nothing. It was like he had never existed. Lily rushed out of the library and headed straight to the local police station. She asked to speak with someone who handled the case back then. A retired officer named Henry Mason agreed to meet her at the station's back office. "I remember the day," he said. "Worst thing I ever worked on. We found the boys' bikes, shoes, some footprints, and that was it. Never found the bodies. We assumed they drowned." Lily pulled out the school photo and pointed at Ethan Rowe. "What about him?" The old officer looked at it, confused. I don't remember him. That name doesn't sound familiar." "But he was there," Lily insisted. "He went missing too. Why wasn't he in the report?" Mason stared at the photo, then slowly shook his head. "I swear to you, no one ever mentioned a fourth kid." Lily leaned in. "What if someone wanted us to forget him?" The officer's face grew pale. "Why would they do that?" Lily didn't answer, but her mind was racing. Someone had erased Ethan Rowe from the story. But why? And who sent her the letter after all these years? She returned to the inn and sat by the window. The sky had turned gray. A storm was coming. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She hesitated and then picked up. No voice, just a soft sound, water dripping, then a whisper. "Don't trust the lake." The call ended. Lily froze. Her fingers tightened around the phone. That voice. It wasn't a stranger. It sounded like a child, a boy. A voice from the past, a voice she hadn't heard since the day Max disappeared. She sat motionless, tears rising in her eyes. Could it be? Was that Max, or was it someone else? Someone who had been lost and forgotten for 27 years. The rain tapped gently against Lily's window. She hadn't slept all night. The whisper from the phone, "Don't trust the lake," kept echoing in her mind. She sat at her desk, replaying the voice over and over, but the number was gone, no record, no trace, just like the boys who vanished. Then she remembered something. Years ago, right after the incident, a few people in town spoke about seeing a strange man near the lake, someone who didn't belong. Lily never gave it much thought before. She was a child, and adults brushed it off as small-town gossip. But now, she wasn't so sure. She grabbed her notebook and wrote a name. Mr. Wren. It was a name from her childhood. A man her brother once mentioned. He said Mr. Wren would stand in the woods near the lake, watching. Some kids even said he lived in the forest. Others said he never aged. Lily got in her car and drove to the lake again, this time taking the old trail through the woods. It was wet and muddy, overgrown with vines. She walked for almost half an hour before she saw it. A small wooden cabin, half hidden by trees. It looked abandoned, but strangely clean. She approached slowly, her heart racing. The door creaked open, on its own. Inside, the air smelled of pine and something older, like forgotten time. Everything was neat, no dust, no cobwebs, as if someone had just left the room a minute ago. And then, on a small wooden table, she saw a photo, old, faded. It showed 4 boys standing together near the lake. Max, Jake, Noah, and another boy Lily didn't recognize. Ethan. Row behind them, in the shadows, stood a tall man, face unclear. But Lily could see his eyes, cold, watching. She picked up the photo with trembling hands. Suddenly, footsteps. Outside. Slow. Heavy. Lily backed up, holding the photo close. The door creaked again, and a man appeared. Tall. Pale skin. Long coat. Eyes sharp and cold. Lily stepped back. "Who are you?" The man didn't speak. He stepped inside slowly, closing the door behind him. You shouldn't be here, he said in a voice that didn't sound human. His face didn't look young or old. It was something in between, like time had forgotten him. I'm looking for answers, Lily said bravely. About the boys. About Ethan Rowe. The man paused. Some memories should stay buried, he replied. But they didn't drown, did they? She asked. Silence. I saw your face in this photo, she said. You were there, you saw what happened. I did more than see, the man whispered. Lily stepped back, her fingers shaking. What are you? She asked. He tilted his head. I'm the one who keeps the truth hidden until it's time. Time for what? Lily asked, but he didn't answer. He walked to the fireplace, reached behind a brick, and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. He handed it to Lily. Take it. But once you open it, nothing stays the same. Lily stared at the object. It was heavy, cold. What is it? She asked. The man looked at her, and for the first time he almost looked sad. A memory someone tried to erase. And then he vanished, not walked away. Vanished. Like a shadow pulled back into the trees. Lily stood alone in the cabin, holding the cloth bundle. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a small, rusted toy, a metal airplane. She gasped. It was Max's. She remembered it from when she was little. He never went anywhere without it. Why was it here, and more importantly, how did it survive 27 years in perfect condition? Her hands shook as she held it. She didn't understand everything yet, but she knew one thing. The lake didn't just take the boys, it kept them. Lily drove back from the cabin with the rusted toy airplane clutched in her lap. The forest seemed darker now, quieter, like it knew she had uncovered something it never wanted found. Back at home, she placed the toy on the table. Her fingers brushed over its metal wings. Max used to run around the backyard with this in his hand, making airplane noises. The memory made her eyes sting with tears. How had it survived all these years, and why was it hidden inside a stranger's? Fireplace? Her phone buzzed. A new message, no number. Go to the lake at midnight, come alone. Her heart skipped. Same message again. She thought of calling the police, but she didn't. Something deep inside told her this was the only way she'd ever learn the truth. So at 11:50 p.m., she was already on the road. The moon was full, and the lake was glowing in silver light. Mist rolled across the surface like smoke. The place looked the same as it had the day Max vanished. She stood near the spot where the boys' bikes were found 27 years ago. No sound, no wind, just silence. Then, a ripple. Something moved beneath the water. Her breath caught. She stepped back, and then a voice. Lily, she spun around. No one, again from the lake. Lily, she stepped closer. Max? Silence. She knelt by the shore, heart pounding. Max, is it you? The water shimmered. A shape rose from the surface. A handprint pressed against the water from below, not breaking it, as if the lake was glass. Another hand joined it. Then a face, a boy's face. Max. Exactly as he looked the day he disappeared. Not older, not changed. Lily gasped and fell backward. The water didn't splash. The image stayed still, watching her. Then, another voice. You were right. She turned. Nothing. There. Suddenly the water shifted, and the boy's face vanished beneath ripples, and in its place, a necklace floated to the surface. A small silver chain with a bird charm. Max's necklace. She reached into the water, and the moment her fingers touched it, flash of vision, a memory not her own. She was standing at the lake 27 years ago, but she wasn't herself. She was Max, and he was looking at a man on the shore. The same pale man from the cabin, Mr. Wren. He was speaking words Max didn't understand. Strange, whispered. Then the water glowed, and something began to pull Max under. Not the water, but the reflection itself, like the lake had turned into a mirror that swallowed him. Then the memory vanished. Lily gasped and pulled her hand out of the water, shaking. She looked around. No one. The necklace now lay in her hand, real, cold, and wet. She stood, tears running down her cheeks. Her brother hadn't drowned. He'd been taken by something or someone that lived beneath the lake's surface. Something that used Mr. Wren as a messenger, or worse, a gatekeeper. And now it was calling her because she was getting too close. Suddenly the mist thickened. Shapes moved in the fog, whispers, shadows, memories. And in the distance, from across the water, she heard a child cry, "Help me." It wasn't just Max anymore. Someone else was trapped down there too. And the lake. It wasn't done yet. Lily couldn't sleep after what happened at the lake. She kept staring at Max's necklace, now hanging from her lamp. It swung slowly, like a silent pendulum, marking time she couldn't get back. Something was happening beneath Mirror Lake, something that had been waiting for years, and now it was awake. The next day, she returned to the library, digging through the oldest records she could find. Town maps, construction permits, survey charts. She was looking for anything that could explain what was beneath that water. And finally, she found it, a forgotten map from 1937. There, beneath what was now Mirror Lake, was something marked, Chapel of the Bound Silence. Lily stared. What was a chapel doing under a lake? She found more pages, blurry photos, and one newspaper clipping. 1938, flooding buries abandoned chapel. Locals report strange voices before water rises. The article ended suddenly, as if the writer never finished. Her hands shook. Was this the place in her vision? Did Max fall into it? She packed her bag and drove to the lake one more time, this time with diving gear borrowed from a local training center. It was risky. No one knew where she was going. No one would believe her if she told them, but she had to find that chapel. She had to find Max. At sunset, Lily slipped into the water, the necklace tight around her neck. The lake was cold, dark, silent. As she dove deeper, the sunlight faded above her, and a strange glow started below. Her flashlight flickered. Then she saw it, a stone arch, covered in vines and mud, nearly invisible, but real. She swam through it, and there it was, the chapel, a small stone structure hidden in the deep, its roof cracked, its door broken open. Inside, strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, circles, hands, eyes, and in the center of the chapel, a door carved from wood but untouched by water. Her heart raced. She pushed the door. It opened with a low creak, underwater. Impossible. But it happened. Behind it was a dry room, air, not water. She swam through and gasped as she stepped onto dry ground. No water rushed in. It was like this room didn't belong in the world. It was quiet, still. On the walls were pictures, drawings of children, faces full of fear. Some of them looked just like Max. There were names carved beside them: Max Blackwell, Eli Carter, Toby Winters. Three boys who disappeared 27 years ago. But there was something else, a fourth name, Lily Blackwell, her own, and beside it, a word written in red, next. She froze. Suddenly a sound behind her, whispers. Then a figure stepped into the room, Mr. Wren. But he looked different now, older. His eyes were completely black. "You shouldn't have come here," he said calmly. "Where's my brother?" Lily demanded. Mr. Wren tilted his head. "He's here, waiting, but not for you." "What do you want from me?" He smiled. "We don't want anything. The lake chose you long ago, the day you looked into its eyes." Lily backed away. "The lake doesn't just take people," he continued. "It keeps them, feeds on memory, pain, fear." "You're lying." "No," he said, "but I'll show you the truth." He raised his hand, and the walls of the chapel began to move, liquid reflections forming windows. Lily saw Max, alive, sitting in a room full of shadows. He looked up. "Lily," he whispered. Then the window shattered. Mr. Wren grabbed her arm. "Time's running out. You can leave, or you can join him." Lily yanked free. "I'm not leaving without my brother." But the chapel was shifting now, walls bending, the floor rippling like water. The door behind her was disappearing. She had to choose, escape now or go deeper. She looked back at the broken window. Max's voice echoed one more time. Lily stood in the heart of the forgotten chapel, water dripping from the ceiling that didn't exist, walls breathing like a living thing. Behind her, the way out was closing fast. Ahead of her, the truth. She took a step forward, toward where Max's voice had echoed, toward the shadowed room that now pulsed with a soft blue light. Mr. Wren was gone, vanished as silently as he'd appeared, but the whispering hadn't stopped. Come, closer, remember. The air grew colder as Lily passed into a narrow hallway. The walls here weren't made of stone. They were made of memories. She saw flashes. Max and his friends laughing at the lake's edge, the splash, the scream, then something pulling them under, not water, something inside the water. Lily's heart pounded. The hallway ended at a round room. In the center was a glass tank like a giant orb filled with swirling light, and inside it was Max. His body floated, perfectly still, eyes closed, but his lips moved. He was speaking. Whispers rushed around her like wind, then his eyes opened. Lily, he mouthed. She ran to the orb, pounding on the glass. Max, I'm here, I found you. Max pressed his hand to the glass. Tears ran down Lily's face. Suddenly, the room shook. The lake was angry. The light around the orb flared. The voices screamed louder. She looked around. There was no switch, no opening. And then she saw it. A small plaque at the base of the orb. Only blood remembers. Only blood frees. Lily's breath caught. She took a sharp piece of broken stone from the floor and cut her hand. Pain shot up her arm, but she didn't. Stop. She pressed her bleeding palm to the glass. It glowed red, then gold. The orb cracked and shattered. Water didn't rush out. Light did. Max fell forward, and Lily caught him. He was weak, pale, but alive. I thought I was dreaming, he whispered. You weren't, she said, and we're going home. But the room began to tremble. The voices were screaming now. The lake didn't want to let them go. Lily grabbed Max's arm and ran. The hallway behind them was crumbling. The chapel groaned like a sinking ship. They reached the door just as it faded back into water. No! Lily screamed. She didn't think. She jumped. Max followed. They swam upward, faster than they thought. They could, up toward the surface, toward the sun. They burst through the water, gasping, crying, laughing. The lake was calm again, too calm. They swam to shore, collapsed on the rocks, and held each other tightly. They were free. After 27 years, Max was back. 1 week later, news broke across the town. Missing boy found alive after 27 years. But no one could explain how. No one believed Lily's story about the chapel, or the lights, or Mr. Wren. The police found nothing beneath the lake. No chapel. No hallway. No orb. As if it had all been a dream. But Lily knew it was real. Max remembered every single moment. And one night, as they sat under the stars, Max handed Lily a box. Inside was a drawing, a child's drawing from years ago. It showed the lake, the orb, and a little girl pulling her brother out of it. I drew this before I vanished, Max said quietly. I don't know how, but I think I always knew you'd come. Tears filled Lily's eyes. You saved me, he whispered. Lily looked out at the lake one last time. The surface was still, but deep down, she knew. Some truths stay buried, and some never drown.